Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Siouxland Sports Insider High School Football Podcast. We are talking week 9 for those of you that are keeping count, but also talking a little bit of small school early playoff here as we talk playoffs in the state of South Dakota in 11B and then 8-man through 2A in the state of Iowa. As always, joined alongside my partner, Marty Millard. And this is not at all possible without our two main sponsors for the podcast, Jersey Mike Subs of Sioux City and Game Day Men's Health of the Dunes. Well, first off, Marty, it seems like it's been about a week or so since we last talked. We took last week off. There weren't a ton of games in the area that really sparked our interest. The only game that was really any significance was that Kemper game, and
Right.
they took care of business pretty easily. Going into this one, though, man, we got a lot of games that have a lot of weight and hold a lot of severity to a lot of these different teams. We'll start off in the state of South Dakota with EPJ. They host Flandero, who they played just a couple weeks ago. This is an EPJ team that's riding high, Marty. That's the number one team in Class 11B. They gave up the most points that they've given up all season last week. Still won by 20 some points, but gave up 26. I think just a nice tune-up game to get them into the playoffs is something that they needed. Now they open up round 1 tomorrow, actually on Thursday. The state of South Dakota plays their games just on Thursdays for the opening rounds for the small schools, and then some of the other big schools play on Thursday as well. Dakota Valley is going to travel up to Sioux Falls Christian to face the number 1 seeded Chargers on Thursday as well. This EPJ team, we talked about it, and I don't want to beat a dead drum because I'm sure people that have heard and, followed the podcast are like, here they go again. But
Yeah.
it's been the offensive line. And
It has.
the fact that they've been able to put up really good numbers this whole season is dedicated, and, it all falls on the offensive line. I mean, you don't give your quarterback time to throw the ball, then, your passing stats are going to be way down. You don't give your running backs lanes to open up, then they don't have that either. And I think the offensive line and the growth that they had, because after this game they're going to play against either the Sioux Valley team they just gave up 26 points for, or a Parker team, I believe Parker or Wagner team that they saw earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And, who knows? I mean, this is a thing where you have to handle business each and every week, especially being the number 1 overall seed, because people are coming at you now. You're the hunted. You were the hunter for the longest time, trying to catch up to these teams like Wagner, like, Sioux Valley, like Winter. And now there's a huge target on your back. You're not the one chasing the target. The target's on your back. So can they sustain the excellence that they've had all year? I personally think so. I think they make a trip to the Dome this year up in South Dakota. Not saying that they win it yet. I haven't seen enough
Yeah.
Elk Point Jefferson football yet to pencil them in as a state champion for me, but we will be at the game. I'll be at the game tomorrow to kind of just take in a little bit of football pre-Friday too. Be a nice game out there. Elk Point Jefferson, I feel like the whole town shows up for their games, so should be a good one against Flandero. It should be an easier win for Elk Point Jefferson. I just want to see how they handle, the first home playoff game, just seeing if guys are healthy, how they're moving and stuff like that to kind of dictate on how I want to pick them moving forward as the season goes on, Marty.
Yeah. You pretty much covered it there. I put all the kudos on the offensive line, and they've steadily gotten better each week. And I was impressed with them in week 1 because there was minimal penalties, if you remember that. So, I mean, they started off crisp, and I think they've got everything synced up in the run game, and the passing game has been able to come through when it's been asked of them to do it. Yeah, looking forward to them making it to Vermilion. I hope they do. I really want to catch their games there once they reach postseason play.
Absolutely. The biggest thing I think, obviously we talk about their offensive line, and rightfully so, because I think around this time, the end of the year stats are kind of coming in. They're averaging right around like 45 to 46 points a game offensively. In the state of South Dakota, once you get up to, I think it's 50 or 55 at half, they call it. So they have had a couple of games that have ended at halftime or going into the third quarter. But it's the defense. I mean, we grabbed stats from a couple weeks ago, Marty, and they had multiple defensive touchdowns. That via, count special teams in that as well. So kick or punt returns, interception returns, fumble recoveries, return for touchdown. It's a very opportunistic defensive group. And if, you're moving the ball down the field, if you're the opponent, you can't settle for 3. You have to make sure you get six there. Try to be too cute when you move the ball because they have shown that they can turn you over and turn it back into six. When the defense and you go out there and your defense goes out first and you already put up 6 or 7 points, the offense hasn't even touched the field. I
Yeah.
mean, you're sitting back if you're an EPJ coach going, all right, we couldn't ask for much better than this. So
Yeah.
kudos to all three phases that Elk Point's played. They've done a really good job. But like the team that's just up the road from or down the road from them, DV, kind of having a little bit of a roller coaster year this year. They won 3 games, lost the last week to Vermilion squad, and now they have to travel up and face the number one team in the state
Yeah.
in Sioux Falls Christian. And this game, Marty, could get really ugly really fast. I just hope that a lot of these seniors and a lot of these younger guys are playing with a lot of pride right now, and are able to go up and put a kind of a nice statement towards on the end of the season here. I don't want anyone to, and not that these kids would, but I don't want anyone to go up there and just give up on the team, because I mean you can see it when one of the 11 that go out there give up. I just hope that doesn't happen. I hope they play as a solid unit, and I hope they keep building for next year. Coach Reinhardt and his staff, they believe that they have the best 11 that they can put on the field to win, and it just wasn't there this year. I think Ty struggled going into the season. I don't know if they just didn't mesh well. I think they got away from some of Ty's strengths at some points. Obviously, you're going to want to ride the hot hand, and Bennett Luckin was an absolute horse of a running back for you.
Yeah.
So I do understand, giving him more carries, but I don't know what they think when they go back and look at film. Like, they're going to have to obviously evaluate different things, maybe change up some schemes for next year to work into
Right.
that offense a little bit better. But no, I'm excited to see what it is because the DV defense always seems to like it comes to play. So I'm not
Right.
worried about that. And how we've watched the maturity and the growth of Ty to Georgia, like we understand he's going to figure it out.
Oh
And
yeah.
there were some plays that he made this year that we're like, okay, like that's a kid that's growing and that's a kid that's learning. And then there was, some plays that, he made and you're like, okay, we get it. He's a sophomore quarterback. He's going to make those mistakes.
Yep.
Just making sure that he grows from that. He's going to put a ton of work out in the offseason. I'm excited to see what this DV team has to come for next year. Obviously, a disappointing year this year off of what they had last year. Made it to the postseason this year. They will fall short of that. And I think just, key injuries on that offensive line hurt them a
Yeah.
lot too.
The Seth Reinhardt
Just,
injury
just
really hurt.
yeah, demoralizing injuries, and
Yeah.
it's there's stuff that you just can't control, and I think
Mhm.
obviously if you could have some of your studs back for the entirety of the season, some
Yeah.
games probably turn in your favor, but it just seemed like a year where DV was just riddled by the injury bug and just they couldn't get a lot of stuff going continuity-wise in that locker room, and, hopefully they're able to figure it out and put out a good effort in 4 quarters against Sioux Falls Christian.
Yeah, whatever's left in that offensive bag of tricks, go ahead and dump it
Right,
tomorrow
you can
night.
run whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, fake reverse on a kickoff, fake a punt, whatever. Try and change the momentum to stay in there because all the pressure's on the 8-0 team that you're competing against. And go in and
Yeah,
just
Sioux
have
Falls
fun
Christian
and
for sure.
play loose and play football.
We'll see how that one turns out. Both those games in South Dakota will be tomorrow on the
Yep.
23rd, not the 24th. So if you see the scores of that, don't kick yourself for missing those games. Make it up to Elk Point for the Flandero game, and then if you're in the Sioux Falls area, make sure you check out the Chargers versus the Panthers. We'll go on now, Marty. We'll move our way up from 8-man all the way to 5A. There are games in all regions. We have a lot more than our normal 5 games of the week, just because it is playoff action. We're going to
Yeah.
spend a little bit less time on each team, but just kind of give our thoughts. And then after we're done, we will make our selections for what we think the game will end up. First game in 8-man, the only 8-man team to make it in the playoffs this year, which normally I would say rinse repeat is Remsen St.
Yeah. Right.
But they lost just so much senior leadership that they took a huge step back this year, and it is Kingsley Pearson, their first year in 8-man, I believe first or second year in 8-man football, going up against Bishop Garrigan, who they had played earlier this year. Bishop Garrigan, a very, very tough team.
Yeah.
Kingsley Pearson, I feel like in this one, they have some really good key seniors that are going to go out. and give their all in their last game. We talked about, how at the quarterback running back position, Coke defensively, I think has the most tackles or got to be in the top 10
Uh-huh.
for tackles in all of the state in Iowa. He's at 72 right now. And I mean, it's a lot, but then it seems like it's a lot less because you're an 8-man, so there's less people to
Right.
make plays. But still, to make 72 tackles, and I think he's got 14 or 15 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
Like he's not making tackles 5, 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. He's making tackles in the backfield. And if he can have a disruptive game and they can get their offense moving, they'll tighten the gap
Yeah.
in this Bishop Garrigan team. And, they always say any given Sunday, any given Saturday, any given Friday. So there's a chance that Kingsley Pearson could pull off the upset. They do have to travel down to Bishop Garrigan. I think their you know, chips are all stacked against them. I think they make it a little bit closer than their original game. But I have Bishop Garrigan winning this one 54-14. No, that's again, no shade at this Kingsley Pearson team. They finished with only 3 losses on the regular season. And kind of we didn't know what this team was going to be this year. We knew
Right.
that they returned some seniors, but just didn't kind of know how they would mesh up really well in this 8-man unit. Figured that Remsen would be the superior of the Siouxland schools in 8-man. Obviously, and they folded halfway through their season, so it was a lot of uncertainty in 8-man for us for covering
Hmm.
and everything. But I think Bishop Garrigan's too good. I think sneakily and oddly enough, Bishop Garrigan might be one of the final 4 teams as well. I think they're that good.
Yeah, I think they can reach that mark too. And as far as a score for me, I'm going to say 45-20. Their standout players will do what they can to keep them in it. I think I'm with you. They're up against it against this team, and they've had a good senior season. I hope they pull the upset, but like you said, the chips are kind of stacked against them for this road game.
We'll move on now to Class A, where we have one team in the area that's playing a somewhat meaningful game. Galen Catholic has to travel to West Hancock, and like we just talked about with Bishop Garrigan and Kingsley Pearson,
Yeah,
West Hancock almost pencils their name in to the
yeah.
dome every year. They
We've
are
seen them in the dome, and they're
insanely
down.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I just such a tough first draw for this Galen team that had I'd say subpar season of what they've had before. Obviously, you had some guys that graduated a few years ago, in McCarty, and not having the potent of offenses what they've had in years past really hurt them this year. I think West Hancock is just too good of a team.
yeah.
Could be, running clock at halftime. And then after that, I got Galen scoring a touchdown, but West Hancock hangs. I got about 48 on them. And this one won't be close from the start. Just a horrible, horrible draw for Galen Catholic having to drive down there to
Yeah,
West Hancock to play their first playoff game and probably their last of the 2025 season, but still made it to the playoffs, which is better than some can say as well. But your thoughts on the Galen Catholic West Hancock game, Marty?
I see a game about 45-13 is what I'm thinking, and they're so well coached, and that staff has been together for quite some time, and they know the steps on the road to get back underneath the Unidome, and it's just a tough ask of Galen to go win this game. So yeah, definitely West Hancock, and I wouldn't be surprised if they hoist the trophy up again at the end of the season here.
Should be really, really competitive. You talk about West Hancock. I don't think that their motto is winning the district, winning the conference, anything like that. It's what locker room are we getting
Yeah.
in Cedar Falls? Like I think that's honestly like what their
Hmm.
mentality is year in and year out. Just like a Grundy Center that you would see
Yeah.
as well. There's teams that are in those smaller classes that always seem to find themselves at the dome. And West Hancock is a team that, we've seen year in and year out make it and do really good things at the dome. And I think their eyes are set on another appearance. So we'll move it on to Class 1A now. Woodbury Central hosts a home game. They found themselves undefeated. I wouldn't say found themselves, but uh, they played a couple closer games in the last couple weeks, but they're led by none other than a one of the top quarterbacks, not only in Class 1A, but in all of the state of Iowa, and that's Jackson Verscher. And, he has played extremely well. He's got a really solid tight end or excuse me, wide receiver in Lloyd. This is an offense that, isn't putting up as much points as what we saw when the Clunders were there, but
Hmm.
it's enough points to where you're comfortable every game going, okay, if our defense can stop them on at least half of their drives, we're going to win this game because I know
Yeah.
our offense is competent enough to drive down the field. They got a good running game. McGill, there's another one of them there.
Yeah,
Him
sophomore.
toting the rock. Yeah. And they take on an AHSTW team that's kind of limping into the playoffs, like a little bit wounded. I want to see Woodbury Central go out and dominate this game. Now, I had the final score as 35-14. I don't think it's going to be this close. I do think Woodbury Central comes out and dominates from start to finish. And, if when you look at it, Coach Bremer and his staff, like their expectation isn't, again, it's not to win a district title. It's not to win the Highway
Mhm.
20 rivalry. It's to go to the Dome every
Yeah.
single year. That's the expectation when you put on a Woodbury Central jersey. And, ever since he's gotten there, this team has just risen in excellence. Like they were a decent team before he took over, and now they are a great team. They're a team that in Class 1A everyone has to look at and look around because, they're always going to be standing in your way.
Yeah.
And if you want to beat the best, you want to go to the Dome, you're going to have to go through Woodbury Central, at least on this side of the state. But they start off there on Friday night at home against HSTW. I like them winning by 3 touchdowns, maybe even 4. I think that their offense is just too good, and their defense is going to make enough plays to keep the AHSTW offense on the sideline, Marty.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mitch. The offense for Woodbury Central, 35.2 points per game. The defense is only allowing 8.8 points per game. As much as we talk about the
Deadly.
offense, the defense has really been incredible. And you've got Holden Cole, 49 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. He's just a junior. And then senior Brody Bremer, 40 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, and 4.5 sacks. So you got some kids that have set the tone on that defensive side of the football. And the offense has done its job, no doubt. And Vershore's been able to spread the ball around. You got Jaden Lloyd, 40 catches, Carson Coulter, 26, and Grayson Lloyd, just a freshman, 25 catches. So, he's really spread the love around with the receivers. There's nobody you can really key on. Jaden Lloyd Jr. has 40 catches for 635 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's averaging 15 yards per catch. They do have some deep threats and then some intermediate threats in their passing tree. This is a team, like you said, Coach Bremer, he knows how to win. His staff is extremely tight. And, I look for them to put this game away early and win by the count of about 35-7.
There you go. And they're two leading tacklers too. And we talk a lot about the trench warfare. Those two leading tacklers are on the D line. So
Yes. Yep.
that's a big
Yeah.
ask for any incoming 1A offensive line to be like, okay,
Yeah.
you have to try to block their leading tackler and their
Hmm.
second leading tackler, and they're both going to rush off of opposite sides normally. Like
Yeah.
Bremer Moore lines up closer to the inside sometimes.
Yeah.
But with those two, if you have them rushing at the edge, even putting one at nose, or even if they had to, because they're both really good athletes, to drop one into coverage, you can do all that. And to ask a incoming offensive line to double team 2 guys, you're
Yeah.
gonna have someone that's open,
Somebody's going to free up.
free blitzer,
Yeah.
and it's just so hard to go against. And I was talking to you when I watched their first game. I was like, there's some 3A teams that would
Yeah.
like both of those defensive linemen to play on their squad. They are big kids, and they disrupt the pass and they disrupt the run, and that's the reason that one of the reasons why this Woodbury Central team's only giving up, like you said, 8 points a game and are sitting at an 8-0 record.
Yeah. Exactly.
Moving on to their Highway 20 rival, Lawton Bronson. Lawton has had as much of a roller coaster season as I've seen of any team that we've covered. They've had
Yep.
some really big wins against MVAOCOU, and then had some really big losses, just like last week or 2 weeks ago when they played West Lion, and lost by 40 plus. So this is a team when now they go to Manson Northwest Webster.
Webster.
So follow
Yep.
me on that one.
Yeah.
Who is a solid defensive team. I think they have 9 interceptions and 5 fumble recoveries on the season. They're going to want to try to turn Noah Drew over. If Noah Drew can play a turnover-free game, this game's gonna be a lot closer than what everyone's thinking. I just think the long drive and the travel and just kind of the way that the season has gone for Lawton, I see them coming up a little bit short on the road. I have a final score of 14-28. I think, Mason Northwest Webster just doubles up Lawton. I think it's probably a close game, 7-point game, and they score a touchdown late to really put the icing on the cake. But we talked about this Lawton team, and they had so much improvement with that offensive line and what
Yeah.
Noah Drew was able to do as a quarterback and as a rusher that, last year we weren't even talking about this team in the playoffs because they were not a competitive football team. And the strides they made in just 1 year,
Yeah.
like I understand that they're going to graduate some really key seniors, but I'm really interested to see how the coaching staff is able to mold and grow these younger kids because, in Lawton, it's not that far away from Woodbury Central. They're trying to grow and make what is happening at Woodbury Central happen in Lawton. And I think
Mhm.
you should have the kids for it. You should have the support behind you, like the community behind you. You should be able to go out and compete year in and year out with Woodbury Central. You should be able to hold yourself to that standard. And they haven't had that in so long that this coaching staff and the new coaching staff is trying to build it up again. I just think that they're in the early stages of the rebuilding process right now. But I mean, it's not to overshadow what an awesome season
Yeah.
that Noah Drew had because I think his progression up until this year was just phenomenal. I think he's doubled, if not tripled, some numbers that he had from last year.
Yeah, I've been impressed with their run this season. I mean, you kind of stated earlier last year they were kind of an afterthought. And then this year, just a complete attitude change, I think. There was an attitude adjustment. They got more physical at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. And I think it's been very beneficial to them. And they now have the foundation that they can continue to build. As far as this contest, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I want Lawton Bronson to win. I just think that they come up probably 20-7, a little bit short in this contest, but I'd love to hear that they won the game at about 9:30 Friday night.
Moving on to our last 1A team and a team that from last year went to the Dome, was an onside kick really away from going to the
Yeah.
state title.
Yeah.
And now this year is we talked before the podcast started is we always talk about, hey, they lost a group of key seniors. How are they going to respond? I don't think I've seen a team struggle without the senior leadership than what I've seen from the Hinton Blackhawks. And I'm not saying that they're a bad team because
Mhm.
when Friesen's playing well, like it's a good team.
Right.
But losing Anderson, losing Bishop, losing
Mhm.
all those key guys,
Barrett.
Barrett, yeah, and guys that you relied on, it shows.
Yeah.
And now they're going up and they finished the season, a regular season, I think at a 4-4 mark. They have to travel to Emmitsburg. I still think that I like their defense enough to keep this game close, but I do have them going to Emmitsburg and losing 21-28. It's crazy to look at the success that the team had and how important that senior leadership was. And, as a media and outsider looking in, you can understand that.
Yeah.
But I think that it's shown on paper from the 24-25 season to the 25-26 season or whatever you have on just how much that senior leadership meant. And I think this is probably like a 1 year drop down for Hinton because they're underclassmen. Some of their sophomores and even juniors are going to be really damn good next year.
Yeah.
So I think this is just a 1 year bottom for them. I think they can get back up and be what they were last year. It's obviously if you're a Hinton fan, it's just kind of demoralizing to see your team make it to the Dome. Have when a lot of people counted you out, not a lot of people except for the people in your inner circle to even go to the Dome,
Yeah.
let alone play as well as you did. And then this year, You kind of are riding the high, and then the roller coaster has the drop, and then the season is what it was. It was kind of a rocky road for them, but I just think Emmitsburg is just a little bit better offensively and is able to put up one more touchdown. So I have the final as 28-21 Emmitsburg for this one. Marty, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 27-12 Emmitsburg on this one. I just think they're a little bit more diversified on offense, and I think that'll show on the scoreboard. But no, great season by Hinton. I hope they pull the upset. I'm just calling it as I see it, and we'll find out Friday evening.
Moving into 2A, and we'll do a little speed run through 2A. Wasn't
Yep.
our highest covered. I will make a note about the OABCIG game, though.
Uh,
Spirit Lake taking on Cherokee Washington. Key Washington, by far the better team, has been all year. They are a tough out at home, and I think they're a even tougher out once it gets into the playoffs. I have them going pretty far actually, and I have them winning against Spirit Lake 31-14. No real reason other than the fact that I like Cherokee's offense to sustain drives, and I think their defense is good enough, and how they played the last couple games to hold Spirit Lake out of the end zone. Maybe giving up two scores, but that's about it. 31-14 is my final.
yeah. Jackson Paulsrud, Air Force commit for Cherokee Washington. And he's pretty dynamic with the football under his hands, and he can throw the ball a little bit too. So him at quarterback really gives them an edge on the offensive side of the ball, and I like them to come out on top, to 10.
And moving on to OABCIG now, prior to this game, last week they did a change at the quarterback position. I like Rafe Jensen as an athlete. I think he's really special, but they coaching staff made a little bit of a change and put in Jax DeJean.
Uh-huh.
And kind of what a lot of us in the media were thinking is you have to let your best athlete touch the ball.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that they were giving him enough opportunities, except for on the defensive side where he would have to go make a play to
Uh-huh.
put the ball in his hands. But scored four touchdowns, two through the air, two on the ground. He brings a little bit different dynamic to this
Yeah.
offense. Now
Agreed.
you can have Rafe as wide receiver or put him in as
Mhm.
wildcat or however you want it. You can mix and match different packages.
Yeah.
And it's going to give this Western Christian team a little bit of fits. I do think Western Christian has one more, trick up their sleeve to end up winning this one, but I have it
Mhm.
close, Marty. I have a 21-28 game. It just depends on how well the offense for OABCIG is able to move the ball because I think they're solid defensively.
Yeah.
They can hold most teams to below their season average. But can they sustain drives and can they not, turn the ball over? That's a big thing that I've seen in their losses is that they have been very turnover prone. So
Uh-huh.
can they hold on to the football and um can they get Jax going in an offensive, rhythm to where they're able to sustain drives? If they're able to do that,
Yeah.
OABCIG went on a kind of a little magical run last year. They
Yeah.
can go on a magical
Yeah.
run again.
Yeah, well, I'm on board with Jax DeJean behind center, and I think they pull the upset, Mitch. I really do. I think that you talked about him being a different dynamic. I think that your leaders lead, and just it's in his DNA, man. I'm bought in, and I respect Western Christian. They have a great team. This will be a dogfight, but I'm going to go ahead and go 21-20, OABCIG. And this game will get dragged late into the fourth quarter before we know who the winner is.
All right. Well, OABCIG winner by 1 point, Marty says. We both have them scoring 21. I just have Western Christian scoring 28.
Yep.
We'll move into 3A and the team that's been making noise all year. If we look back at, week 3, I think it was week 3 or 4, that
Yeah.
East game, if the 2 point conversion works,
Yeah.
this Heelan team's possibly ranked number 1 in 3A.
Yeah.
But they lose a heartbreaker to Sioux City East,
Mhm.
and I think the worst that they are ranked all season was like 6, and they're
Yeah.
sitting right now at 3 in Class 3A. They play an Algona team. This will be a tune-up for them to get to the playoffs. Algona has Mansky's younger brother. Just a 500 ball club that I think Heelan doesn't really have a huge problem with. Big implications here for the 3A, 4A, and 5A teams that have winning records is hosting and playing possible 2 home games.
Right.
is huge. And, I know Heelan wants to play at Memorial, Sergeant Bluff wants to play at home, East wants to play at Olson. So
Uh-huh.
winning these last games, like granted, they're not against some of the best competition, but it's going to set you up in the RPI to
Yeah.
have to keep where you're at and to host more than just one playoff game. And, the travel, especially when there's not as many 3, 4, and 5A schools around here, is
Uh-huh.
huge. I as a high school kid, would I want to stay at home and play a game at home or travel 2.5 hours minimum to play a football game?
Right.
That's not a question. I'd stay at home.
Yeah.
And so that's gonna be huge. And this one I do have Heelan winning 30-14 against Algona. I just think that the balanced rushing attack with Favors and Thomas is just too good. And then the improvement that they've had offensively with Conley and then their defensive secondary is one of the best in 3A,
It
4A,
is.
and 5A that
It
I've seen
is.
around in the Sioux City area.
Yeah. I'll say Heelan. I did some research on them today a little bit, and they've only allowed 21 points over their last 4 football games. So the defense is really honed in. You've got some playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Senior linebacker Zach Harpino, 48 and a half tackles, 4 tackles for loss. Senior Matt Meyer, 43 tackles, 8 tackles for loss. And Isaiah Favors, 34 tackles, 8 tackles for loss. And big fan of Caden Lester there on the back end. He's had an incredible season, and I think he has tendency to make everybody else around him better. I just think he's a hell of a competitor. He's got 35 tackles, and also sophomore Dylan Knapp I wanted to mention, and junior Max Asoff with 27 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. So you kind of talked about the offensive side of the ball. I love what they're doing on defense. And I think it lines up well with the postseason. As far as this game Friday night, I like Heelan 6.
Moving into 4A, we'll speed run through some of these because I don't feel like most of these games will be close. Fighting for first and second place in the district, Sergeant Bluff goes to Spencer. I think they handle business. Might let Spencer score late. I like 35-14 in that contest. Fort Dodge comes to Olson to play Sioux City West. Not a good season capper for the West High Wolverines. Fort Dodge comes in, have one of the best defensive players in
Yeah.
Deshaun Ross in
Yeah.
all classes. And he's going to be in the backfield. Irvine's going to be running for his life early and often in that one. I have that final being 42-0. And
Uh-huh.
then Lamar's will cap off their season against a Storm Lake team that's they're kind of similar. Both teams like to throw the ball. I think Lamar just has a better quarterback and wide receiver duo with their skill players on the outside. And I got Lamar's 28-14 over Storm Lake. And I'll flip it back over to you, Marty. Who do you have in those 3 games?
I'll go in reverse order here. You're probably going to have to help me out. With the Sergeant Bluff game, I think they roll and take care of business. I'm not really concerned about that. I'm going to call it 35-0 in favor of Sergeant Bluff. They've only allowed like 14 points in the last 3 games, I believe it is. So they're doing really well on defense. As far as West and Fort Dodge, they run the ball and they keep running it at you and running at you till you say uncle. So I think at Fort Dodge, probably 24, uh, 34, and West 6 there. What was the other ones that I'm missing here?
No, you're good. Last one was Storm Lake and Lamar's.
Yeah, Storm Lake Lamar's. Yeah, Jamie Sitzman at quarterback for Lamar's. The Augustine kid at wide receiver. They've been working together for almost 3 years. Great combination there, and I like Lamar's 35-14 over Storm Lake.
Perfect. Moving into 5A. Ankeny Centennial, Sioux City North. We kind of looked at this game before. Ankeny Centennial sitting at 500, but this North team, Marty, has a chance to be shut out their last 4 games of the season. Do you think they head down to Ankeny Centennial and at least put up some points, or do you think that they get shut out again?
I think they get on the board late, and they're in for a tough game, and they're down with some injuries and things like that. It's just been a really tough go for Sioux City North, and Friday will probably be no different. But I like Ankeny Centennial, probably 42, and North High 6.
I got Ankeny Centennial 35, Sioux City North 0. The early injury to your starting quarterback is never a good way to start your season.
Right.
Uh, and I think they did have some bright spots, like they were able to move the ball. I think defensively they had some playmakers. They just weren't able to put it all together this season.
Mhm.
So, unfortunately, they're gonna end with just one win against the Sioux City West team. And then you look on the other side, and West has one win against South Sioux City. So,
Yeah.
a disappointing year for Sioux City North. I think they hold themselves to a little bit higher standard than that. It just wasn't in the cards this year. Too many injuries, too
Yeah.
many mental mistakes and stuff like that, and it all comes down to this one. And I think it'll really show on how the season goes on how they play against Ankeny Centennial on Friday. The big game here, Sioux City East goes to Ames. Now, Ames this year is not the Ames of old. This is a pretty bad Ames team. I think they have one win. I think teams are Sioux City East is 7-1 going into the contest. Ames is 1-7.
Yeah.
Ames's only win is against Council Bluffs Abraham Lincoln by 7 points, who Sioux City East just beat last week pretty badly. I don't think East has a problem. I just hope that they go down, handle business, and don't get anyone hurt
Yeah.
in the game
Yeah.
because you're going to need these guys for postseason. And I think if they win, where they sit RPI wise, Marty, this is like we talked about. Heelan, Sergeant Bluff, and Sioux City East all can host 2 home games, depending on how the brackets and everything are laid out. I have Sioux City East winning this one 14. I do think it's pretty much over by halftime, and the Ames scores a touchdown or two late. Look for a lot of their starters to rest in the second half
Yeah.
if they have a big lead, just because they do want those guys to be fresh and ready to go for whatever their first round matchup is going to be.
Yeah, totally agree with everything you said there. Cal Jepson will start at quarterback. He'll put him up on the board, and then you got to get him out. Let the Kellen Cook kid play at quarterback. He's a young guy that's going to take over next year, and this is some great playing experience for him at the varsity level here. So yeah, I'm with you. I like East probably 38 thing. I think I've been impressed with the East defense. My guy Bray Fogel at linebacker, Ullman at D end, Claiborne in the secondary, Chris Ford at corner. The Pittenger up front too. They're loaded. So they've done what they've had to do to this point, and I think they're really prepped and prepared and looking forward to the postseason.
Absolutely. And as we are looking for the postseason as well, and Marty, you and I try to be at as many games as we need to or can be. Obviously we can only be at one place at a time, but
Mhm.
brought on another partner, Jacob Lebowich,
Yeah,
just done a fantastic job on
yeah,
Twitter, staying up. He's traveled to a couple East games, taken some photos, done some graphics and stuff for us. So happy to have him on
yeah,
as a part of Siouxland Sports Insider. And then just make sure you go follow his Twitter page because he always does the live updates, does the weekly,
yeah,
grabs the polls and like lets everyone kind of know where each team in Siouxland sits. He's made some good graphics and stuff for us. Good, nice piece to have on the team. We try
yeah,
to do as much as
yeah,
we can and cover as much as we can.
yep,
And then like me, like last week, I was out of town, so like
yeah,
there's just stuff I can't cover. I was still following and watching on Twitter and as much as I could to watch some games, but as it goes through, we just the more and more people that we can have help us, I think is a huge get.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think Jacob kind of fell into our lap and has been a great
yeah.
addition.
Jacob's a great addition. Very, very intelligent kid, smart, really understands the nuances of the game of football. And he's a great add-on to our roster, which includes myself and you. So kind of a three-headed monster right now. No, appreciate his help. Please do give him a follow. He'll be someone you want to stick to during postseason play.
It'll be a good one. And none of this, like you said, is obviously made possible without Jersey Mike's of
Yeah,
Sioux City keeping
yeah,
us good to go. And I think they're gonna give us a little special something for the state tournament as well.
yeah,
So we'll see
yep,
how that goes. And then game day men's health of the dunes, making
yep.
sure that
Appreciate their
everyone
sponsorship.
is game day and good to go. So Marty, next time that we talk, it'll be a little bit more in depth with the higher classes in the playoff action, as well as recapping what happened in the lower classes. If any
Yeah,
upsets or anything happen, we'll be
sure.
definitely able to talk about that. We only have about 3 more weeks until we're talking dome action. And then after
Yeah,
that, we have to quickly move into basketball season.
I know.
So
Yeah,
It's crazy that the season is kind of nearing an end,
Yeah,
but I tell you what, some of the games of the week that we've had this year, and
yeah,
some of just the plays, the kids, the coaching staffs that we've been able to follow. I think this is probably one of my favorite years
yeah,
following with Siouxland Sports Insider, just because of all the crazy stuff that's happened. And there's just a lot of really damn good football played in the Siouxland area. And I think
yeah,
that, a lot of appreciation, like for me and you, goes out to these kids because and they're putting it all on the football field, and it's not going unnoticed. So if obviously, is there anything that Marty and I can help with Twitter wise,
yeah,
reposting, retweeting, anything,
yeah.
just let us know.
Let us
We'll
know.
be
We'd be
happy to
happy to
help.
help.
Absolutely. For week 9 and early postseason coverage, I'm Mitch McCumber. That's Marty Millard, and we will see you next week for what should be a fun episode talking all playoff action.
Absolutely.